Welcome back to the Divergent Talent Alchemist. I'm Jen Benford. Um, this is one of the first times I'm going live by myself. Thank you all for joining. I see people rolling in. Hi, Christina. Hi, Dito. Hi, Fabio. Thank you for joining. Hi, Malin. Um, so thank you for being here. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the course that I have been putting together, and really, it's designed as a cohort. But before I jump into that and take you through my webpage and what I'm offering, I am going to start with a little bit of my why because I think that's really important piece to the story. So we will get to the point, I promise, where I talk about what is in it for you. Hi, Kat. Hi, Alex. Hi, the midlife prescription. Thank you all for joining. So I'm going to start with talking about my why. Identity has been really hard for me my whole life, pretty much. So I was adopted when I was 2. I lived in 4 homes before basically age 2 or 3. And looking back, like I didn't realize how much of a profound impact that could have on me in life because like those formative years are so critical to like how we show up in the world, how we see ourselves. So we got like a little bit of nature, a little bit of nurture um going on. And so, fast forward into middle school, I was in the gifted and talented program and I had this label and I was like, okay, what does this really mean though? I was always kind of like people would tell me I was a bright kid. And, I played soccer since I was 4 years old. That was my first and forever love. It was really, like, a huge outlet for me. Um, but that gifted label sort of stayed with me through my whole life in terms of, like, the perception that I have had about how I need to show up, and it, like, has driven a lot of, like, my perfectionism, my overachieving, my endless giving without putting myself first, and, I'm gonna talk in a little bit about, like, kind of my breakdown that got me where I am today, but, I did the thing. I did my bachelor's in communications and media. I did my master's in London, England. It was, like, the best time of my life. I absolutely love being there, immersing myself in different cultures and learning, and then, I came back and I entered the workforce. I got a job very quickly at a temp agency just to get some income because college debt. And so like I quickly was brought on full time there. My master's, by the way, is in human resource management. And I really got into that field because I had my bachelor's in comms as like a foundation, and then my master's, I was good with people, and so I sort of had some people in my ear telling me like, yeah, this is, you're really good with people, Jen. You should probably go and be an HR person. And also I have a parent that was in HR for 19 years. And so that was kind of some of the driving factors behind my decision making process. I'm just checking the chat as we go. Feel free to drop questions. This is so true. Being labeled as gifted has huge expectations. Yes, Steve, thank you so much for being here. It really, really does. And it kind of makes you feel like you always have to be the best at everything, and the label gets confused. Like that's not what it means. But unfortunately, we had a good chat about this yesterday in my live. You're not really given any tools. You're just given kind of this label. And so it really shapes kind of how you move through the world and how you see yourself. And when I entered the workforce, specifically in corporate, like, so I've worked across retail, transportation and logistics, higher education, manufacturing. I worked in recruitment process outsourcing for a little bit. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. That's like the majority, and then I've done, like, some affiliate marketing and marketing as well. Um, but I quickly realized, like, okay, what the heck is going on here? This system feels kind of broken. I remember one of my earlier leaders, he was great, and he showed me like this video of people in the army, and he was showing me like how rank works in the workplace, right? Because I was kind of brand new, and I was like, wait, this system is now being kind of lifted over here and shifted over to the workplace. I remember like feeling very confused and also just not really understanding like my own, because when you're earlier in your career, I think it's easier to be take direction. We take a lot of direction. And so um it's hard to kind of, again, back to the point about identity, like figure out, okay, what do I actually believe, right? Because like when you're attached to an employer or you have customers, like you're essentially representing their brand as well and their policies and their guidelines and all of that. So um I kept going, I kept working hard, showing up, doing all the things, making connections, trying to climb this like metaphorical ladder, the okay, first you're a coordinator, then you're a specialist, then you're a manager, senior manager, so on and so forth up to like, okay, you're in the C-suite. And and throughout this whole thing I really never felt like I truly belonged in any of those places. And I think part of it is because like, and I'm sure a lot of you who are joining can relate to this, but like, I've always been a divergent thinker, um, which we'll talk a little bit about the Divergent Talent Alchemist in a minute, which is my newsletter here on Substack. But when you are a divergent thinker and you're kind of from an early age put into this line at school and told to, just listen to the teacher, then listen to your boss. And then when you get into the workforce and you have this hierarchy that I'm talking about, and you don't agree with your boss and you push back and you kind of get um, a lot. I don't want to speak for everybody, right? I'm kind of speaking from my lived experience, but I think a lot of us get suppressed. Like our personal identity gets suppressed, or maybe we don't even know who exactly we are yet beneath all of that. Um, and so really over the last like year and a half, I left corporate in December of 2024. And I've been building my own business. I launched Benford Talent Alchemy LLC. I'm based in North Carolina. But I will tell you, it's been a year and a half of like self discovery, figuring out again, okay, who am I? What do I want to be doing? What are all the, what is my why? What is my perfect purpose that is driving me? And how can I offer that to the world in a way that number one brings value and number two at this point earns money, right? Because when you're at this big, six-figure corporate level salary, and now like, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my husband because he's been so supportive in my entrepreneurial journey, right? I realize I'm speaking from a place of privilege, so I want to acknowledge that. Um, but the truth is I had like a mental breakdown and in in corporate, and I my goal and like a part of my driving piece is to help people earlier to not get to that point. And so this is kind of what I've designed my first cohort to be about. And I'm going to have many different learning experiences after this, right? This is just the first one. Um, but when I first started my business too, I felt like, okay, I need to have this beautiful webpage. I need to have all of my offerings there. And I went into HR mode because that's what I had been doing the last, over a decade. And so that's what I thought that I could offer. And then, the first year of entrepreneurship is very much a it's a process of trial and error, right? You're trying different things, um, seeing what works. And when I showed up on Substack, I like wasn't really planning to make a business out of it at first. I thought, I'm healing, I'm writing. I started writing my memoir, and then eventually I put that behind a paywall because I was like, well, this is kind of like my personal life. I feel like I should paywall this, and I've since changed positions on that a little bit because again, all self discovery, but a lot of that writing and that healing um, was happening during my when I was writing my memoir. So um, I the first year I was writing about nervous system regulation, wellness, creativity, adoption, like all of these different buckets and healing through my writing. And then people like all of you started to say, wow, this is really resonating with me, and trauma too. A lot of I was writing a lot about trauma, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so amazing. There's so many people like me out there who are in the same situation, not the same exact situation, but in similar situations, in their whether it's in their workforce, whether it's in like their family system, like because the systems are broken, and we know that, right? I think you know that if you're here. So again, first year foundational, and then I found my people. So the creators, the feelers, the rebuilders, maybe the people who are like trying to design a life on their own terms. And this year, I have pivoted my strategy a little bit because I want to move with all of you. And I have done a lot of soul searching on what it is that I want to do and what I can offer. So, from a value perspective, like branding has always been a sweet spot of mine. And I've learned so much over the course of my career, whether it's through, talent branding. I've done some work in the product space now, but services and like building your own brand from the ground up, like that's kind of the stuff that really, really lights me up. And I've started, over the course of the last year, taking on clients in that um, capacity. And so, I'm the the switch this year on Substack has been, and I announced this in December of 25. It's really been focused on entrepreneurship, on brand strategy, on the giftedness and neurodiversity, right? Because I am a neurodivergent, women-owned business, and I think that's important. Like all of that work, that foundational work, and even regulating myself before I get to the point where I can really shine in my craft and help others do the same. I had to be regulated. So that's all the foundational work. And then um, the AI component, right? So I'm going to get to the cohort in a minute, but the AI component has been big because it's moving so fast and it's evolving. And gosh, like I've been in Canva for since 2016, but I'm not a designer, but I'm somebody who really likes to be the strategic partner behind the design and thought partner with other founders. And so that's the work that I like to do. But now also it's making my job even better pulling AI in because I can teach other people how to use that to build their own personal brand and to make it really look nice. And like the visual part is only a piece of that because on Substack, I've seen like, I know who my competitors are, right? And a lot of people are selling these courses about, like just brand your Substack or buy these templates. And like my approach to branding is a lot more holistic than that, especially given all of my experience because I'm wearing right now is part of my brand. The sign behind me, like hug your dog and have a good day, that's part of my brand. There are all these little bits and pieces that like live underneath the brand, but you have to do the self-discovery work in order to really be able to articulate your authentic brand. And then underneath all of that, of course, is leadership. Um, so those are kind of my Substack buckets, right? And now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and I'm going to share my screen to talk to you a little bit about the cohort. And we have some applications coming in already. So I'm just really excited about that. Hold on one second. Share my screen. And please keep in mind that Substack can be a little bit wonky with the screen sharing feature. So sometimes it goes back and forth between slides, and I cannot, unfortunately, see the chat. One second. Let me see. Okay. That's funny. I think I need to share it a different way. One moment. Sorry about that. I think I need to share my entire screen. Nope. That's not going to work either. Gotta love it. Um, I just put out a note the other day to say, can we please help with this feature because I'm on lives that I can't share. Hold on. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try a window. Nope. It doesn't like me today. If if worst comes to worst, I can record a screen share. Say, wow. Hold on one second. Let me try one more thing. Mm-mm. Hmm. Sorry about that. I think you can see part of my screen. Oh, there we go. Okay. Give me a heart. Please give me a heart if you can see this. I'm just sharing a window. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the cohort. So this is a 12-week cohort for early founders building the brand that they actually are. And I have 10 spots. I'm keeping it very, very intimate on purpose because I think any more than that and you really lose that personal touch. And I want for people to be able to work together on this. And I'm also going to be doing 3 one-on-one sessions. So there will be an onboarding one-on-one and then a midpoint check-in. And then at the end, we'll have a proper offboarding call where we can talk about next steps and send you on your way. Or we could continue to work together because I'm going to have future workshops and other add-ons as well. Also, 2 scholarships because accessibility is super important to me. That's a huge part of my brand, and I want to offer that to people. From a financial perspective, the economy is really hard right now. So I'm going to read every application closely for the 2 scholarships, and we'll talk about the application process in a little bit. And I will catch your questions, by the way, towards the end. So feel free to drop them in the chat and I will get to them when I can see them. So this just talks a little bit about the cohort. Again, I soft launched it yesterday. I'm opening it today. And it's talking about who this is for. So we talked about all of that, right? Maybe you want to get out of the corporate rat race and build your own thing. Maybe you are a multi-passionate person and you have a ton of great ideas and you're kind of struggling to figure out, okay, where do I go next? Maybe you've already left corporate America and you just really need something that feels like you. Maybe you're the gifted kid, all grown up and exhausted from carrying everything and constantly trying to be the one that holds everything together. And you're just ready to do something for yourself and really do that inner work. Um, the frameworks that I'm going to be going through, they can absolutely be applied to just Substack, right? But um, the cool thing is it's kind of higher level than that. So you'll be able to lift and shift what we are working on and take that anywhere you go. Because your brand will be authentic. It's I don't want to overpromise. I'm saying the word will. I got to be careful. There's a bunch of legalese here, by the way, because I have also worked across marketing, across, talent. And I have it's a background too in like legal writing from a policy and procedural perspective. So you'll see all of that language in there. But really, if you're quietly building something on the side and you want to take it seriously, this is, I want to help you. I really, really want to work with you. Um, I will talk to you a little bit too about, and I sort of touched on this, right? But this is not designed necessarily. Again, it's going to be your decision, right? Whether or not you apply or not, but it's not designed for, just like just Substack or just LinkedIn, right? It's kind of what sits above that. And then what we work on will then drive, how you show up on different platforms. And I'm going to be opening another cohort. And I'm still working on what that looks like, but that's going to be like the next step after this for, okay, like I have my brand. How do I show up like on the internet, out, in person, all of those things. So probably the meat and potatoes for what you were all here for is what you're going to walk away with, right? So, um, figuring out who you are and why you show up in the world. So it's going to be a small group, very intimate, conversations. There's going to be work that happens in between the sessions. They are going to be 90 minutes on Tuesdays. And the cool part is you're going to have direct feedback from me and also like everybody in the cohort. So your peers, like people at similar stages in their journey. And so that's, I think, a real value add. We're going to go through mission, vision, values, and also like how to articulate that onto paper. Because I think one of the big challenges that I see across the board is um, the way people are showing up, and it's maybe not consistent, or maybe you can kind of tell they have a thing, but you're not sure exactly what it is that they're offering. And I think before you can offer anything, you have to really, really do that self discovery work to figure out, okay, like who am I? What are my core values? Um, where do I want to go? What is my mission? What is my vision? And then we'll get into, okay, who is my customer persona? I'll tell you a quick story about this. When I first left corporate, I went to this actually like training, or I think it was like a little workshop. I think it was a sales pitch kind of of, okay, you have to talk to your customer persona. Cause I said, listen, I just got out, what am I supposed to be doing? And they said, customer persona. Oh my gosh, you have to have it. You have to have it. And I thought, wait, this is a little bit backwards. Like, how am I going to know my customer persona if I don't have a clear picture of like who it is that I'm talking to? Because I've had to unlearn too a lot of the stuff that I have learned that's kind of been programmed into me from an institutional perspective. And again, that's where that inner work comes in. So I immediately thought, okay, this is like a gap in the market because everybody's telling me customer persona, and that feels kind of overwhelming to me. So over the last 15 months, I've been really working at who am I talking to? And it's been a process of trial and error. And I'm talking to all of you here. And then also that's where verbal identity comes in. So how you sound, how you show up, the language that is actually yours, not, what the institution is telling you to say. Which again, like I've worked in corporate communications and branding and talent. And like a lot of times when companies, for example, they go to market, there's like the values on the wall. Okay, but in order to figure out if those are your actual values, you have to talk to the people who are boots on the ground, the people who are, I will use if you own a trucking company, right, and you have assets, so trucks, like what do the drivers think are the competitive advantage here? Like, what drives them to wanna work here? How do we then take that and go to market to attract other people who might be interested in the opportunity? That's one example. In a thoughtful way, that framework is consistent when you look at the, like, corporate jobs as well. So I've led, like, talent acquisition teams across multiple industries, selling, come to work for this organization. And so often it's a top down approach where you're not really, you don't have a listening strategy. And this, again, this works for customers, this works for um, employees, because if you don't understand what's happening, like with your front line, you're not going to be able to articulate what your actual value is. It's just maybe what you think the values are. Okay, I am, we are very authentic here. Okay, but like, are you? Let's talk to the people here, whether it's your customers, your employees, yourself, which is what we're talking about. And what are the top 5 values that drive you? So we're going to be doing some of that work as well. And then the fun stuff. Number 6, I wish it could come as number 1. That's my favorite, visual identity. So all of the colors, the fonts, the mood of your brand and how you show up, um, down to, I'll just give you a few examples. Like, are you using stock imagery? Are you using AI images? Are you using personal photos that you've taken? Like, that's part of visual identity. What you wear is part of your visual identity. What your website looks like is part of your visual identity. What are your social media graphics? That's part. But also, all of this, it's not just colors on a page, right? So, all of these other things that I've touched on before this are what is going to help shape your visual identity and how you show up. So, a lot of times we see, okay, I like the color purple. I really do, if you couldn't tell. And so I'm going to just make my website purple. Okay. But why? Like, colors have feeling and meaning too. So this is kind of all of the stuff that we are going to go through. And now I'm going to hit a little bit on the structure. I talked a little bit about it already, but 90 minutes. This starts on July 14th, goes through September 29th. I am going to record the sessions as well. So you have them to reference. So I have them to reference to make sure, I'm a person of continuous improvement and I want to make sure that you're having the best experience. So I'll be recording and watching them back. You'll have structured work between sessions, probably like 3 to 5 hours per week, right? This is like deep work. So, um, it's going to be a little bit of a time commitment for you. And then I talked about the 3 private one-on-one sessions. And I'm also going to have a private cohort community where you can all like share your in between work with each other and talk about it and get feedback, right? Like, I'm going to facilitate, but also it's really a good time to build community with other founders. Or maybe you're not even gonna be, maybe you're a creator, right? But um, no matter what, you're working with other people who are trying to build something and take that to market. And so the last piece of the cohort is going to be a live session where you're going to present your finalized brand to the group. So you'll have as long as everything goes to plan and you really put the work in, you'll have your mission, your vision, your values, your visual and verbal identities. And also that's going to evolve with you over time, right? But you'll have your fun color palettes as well. And you'll be ready to take to market and probably offer your first product from there. So, or service. So it's 12 weeks, um, which is 3 months, and month 1 is the why, month 2 is the who, month 3 is the expression. I just shared a little bit too about my background as well. Um, So I've done everything from like build people functions from the ground up. I've designed early careers programs. And we're gonna get to price in a minute. I will tell you, I priced this different a couple different bullet points influence the way that I shape the pricing. And number one, I think it's the value that I bring because most I don't want to say all, but a lot of people have only written or done copy or done branding in like a specific segment of business. But I've touched everything, and I'm not saying I'm an expert in anything, by the way. Always have to preface that, but I've done legal, marketing, talent, HR, policy, procedure, product training, in internal and external comms. I've written for, the C-suite, I've written for senior managers, so across the board. So you're kind of getting a very good deal, because I've also seen what the big agencies charge for this as somebody who has worked internally, and specifically for like corporate brand work, like it is hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But I again want to make my pricing um accessible. So very important to me, and I'm really really excited about this work. And then I have my educational um credentials there, so you can kind of take a look at that. Um, so here is where we are with pricing. Option one is standard, so $2,500, or you can pay the sorry, I don't have my glasses on. $2,375 in full, and that's like a 5% discount. Um, We'll need deposits to hold seats. And then option two is a payment plan with like a little bit of interest. I think it's like $50. And then option three, again, for accessibility, um, is the scholarship option. I have 2 scholarship spots for $1,500. Again, you go through the course like everybody else does. So feel free to apply if that is something that you are interested in. And I'm going to be looking at we are going to be looking at all of those applications really, really closely. And again, 10 spots. So I have opened the cohort. I'm so excited. This is the work that I feel like I was born to do. And that's what I want to help you discover. But first, it starts with figuring out your why. So the scholarship applications close on Friday, June 12th, and then standard applications are closing Friday, June 19th. I'm going to make all the decisions by June 26th, and then the deposit will hold your spot, and I'll have some like pre-questionnaires as well before the cohorts, and also those one-on-one meetings, which will be critical, right? Because everybody's going to be coming from a little bit of a different space. So I want to make sure that I understand where everybody is in their process before we pull everybody together. So planning to kick this off on July 14th. And I spent a lot of time putting together this FAQ right here. I can't show you right now in the screen share, but these little arrows right here, they're not arrows, they're plus signs, Jen. But they drop down and expand and answer the questions. So a little bit about the cohort structure, again, kind of covering what we covered today. The work, um, whether or not this is for you, right? It's like self-selection. It's going to be totally up to you whether or not this is the right um, time for you to embark on this journey together with us. I do have applications in for scholarships already, by the way. I just wanted to let you know that. And we cover logistics, what comes after, and these buttons are throughout the page. So if you click this, the application opens. It's a very standard application. And yeah, it has some tailored questions so that I really understand, again, like who you are, what you're looking for, and if this is going to be the cohort for you, and only you can decide that. So I am going to Oh, one more thing I actually wanted to tell you is that if you have a specific question in mind, I made it so that where is it? Boop. These buttons right here about built for what you get, what we cover. If you want to skip, because like I understand this is a lot of information to take in at once. So if you have specific questions, you can go here and then start with the FAQ. But I'm gonna stop sharing now and catch up to see if there are any questions in the chat. Um, we can see it on the original way. Thank you, Steve. And what type of businesses are you working with? Do you help brick and mortar startups or local service businesses? This is such a good question. I'm kind of open. I think people, we are in a space where the digital economy is kind of, where we are headed with AI and the way that's shifting the workforce and how we work. I really, really, really view personal branding as the future of work. Especially because like we just saw Meta just laid off 8,000 people, right? People are like being pushed out of the system by the bots, and I think this is my personal opinion and philosophy, that's gonna continue to evolve. And so like knowing who you are is going to be the first step. So I wouldn't want to like pigeonhole myself, Steve, to say like, oh, I definitely won't work with, this person. But I think where my skill set really leans in is the digital space. So if you're looking to eventually maybe create a course, or you're looking to build a community, or you're even working on your resume to be able to reposition yourself into like the way the workforce is moving, or maybe you don't know exactly what you want to do and you need like a little bit of guidance, right? You should have a starting point kind of coming into this, to the cohort, just a little bit. um so you're not starting from a blank s- slate. But I think the digital space, and what did he say? Hooray, I asked a good question. I am I am gifted. Steve is so smart. Yes, like I am neurodivergent myself, right? And I know that term can get thrown around, right? But my people are probably going to be like the high achievers who, have kind of molded themselves into something that maybe they're like, wait a second, who am I beneath the degrees, beneath the um, you know, big flashy corporate title, beneath the even like being a parent. Like we collect all of these identities our whole life. And so what I really want people to discover is like, who are you on the inside? And then how can you create a business that is sustainable for you and the way that you show up in the world? And because it is possible, like you do not have to stay stuck in the system. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It is really, really, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It is not for everybody. And that's where I am, right? I'll probably have a lot of like solopreneurs or people like just starting out. That's such a good question, Steve. I think that's what my audience tends to be. That's who my current clients are. I have some gifted people who are my clients, right? This has just happened by nature, right? Over the last year and a half, I started and have evolved into, okay, like you kind of have to put yourself out there and see like what comes back. And what I realized when I started writing authentically on Substack is like there are people um that get it. And so I don't want to be exclusive, right? Everybody is invited to apply, but those are some of the types of, people that I would really love to work with, because Like, we're just gonna understand each other. But again, it's not just for neurodivergent people. Like, anybody can apply. Everybody brings something different to the table. We all have gifts. Like, the term gifted, I mean, you know, you don't have to have the label gifted to be gifted. And we all have something that, like, really makes us tick. For me, mine is helping other people. It has always been that way. That's in its simplest form. Okay, but how? It's through personal branding. This has been, like, a passion of mine my whole career. I'm all about aesthetic. I'm all about, like, what looks good, and but also, like, what is sitting underneath of that. So that's kind of how I landed here, and if that sounds like you, then you are probably in the right place, but I'll leave it to you to make that decision. Once dogs are able to use the internet, I will move Steve, once dogs move to the internet, I will move to digital services. I have a dog right behind me, Bear. I'm an animal lover. If you're an animal lover, I probably want to work with you. By the way, if you're curious about, like, um my, like, teaching style, I just co-facilitated a mini learning series with Colleen Kenny. She's a wonderful human, and it's called Build Your Brand with AI. It's just, like, some foundational things that, like, we share screen and talk about prompting, and so, like, very laid back type, um, environment, but also we built a, um, business website that is geared for pet photography. And Steve was in, like, I think nearly all of our sessions, right, Steve? And he told me that he paid, and he's given me permission to share this, $28,000 for his website. Um, and then when he left our course, he went and built the website, and it came out looking very similar. Mind you, Steve's website is fantastic. Like, it is gorgeous. It is top notch. So I don't want to take away from that designer and the company who, built that. But this is just, like, a really, really good point about where businesses are going, how to stay current with AI, right? It doesn't have to be a huge, huge part of your work, but I will say, like, if you're open to it, this is going to be, a better experience for you if you're open to learning, because you're just going to get better outputs. We built that website in, I think, like, under 60 minutes. Steve. Um, we built that website in under 60 minutes. And Steve, if you could drop in the chat, like, how long that took you, when you were working with the outside designer and probably consulting firm, right? 28 grand. You can build that actually by yourself now, which is absolutely incredible. That's actually how I built my page here too, my landing page for my service offerings. Okay. So it took Steve 6 weeks to get the website. It took 60 minutes to build this pet photography website. Now, this course, or this cohort, will give you the foundation to then take that, plug, again, I'm going to say, I said the term will. It should. You should be able to take everything we're building, shift that into, we used Claude, right? But your AI of choice. And I will say Claude is one of the better ones for website building based on my own personal lived experience. But you'll be able to launch your website and make it look beautiful. Steve, drop yours in the you Steve's now, like, communicating with me telepathically. He read my mind. Uh, you'll be able to build that by yourself, and you will, like, I'm telling you, you could probably just cut and paste and say, "Make this for me." You'll have your brand guidelines. You'll have your copy, for your mission, vision, values, all of that. But, you know, the bot the bot is not a human, okay? It is not a human. I hear people talk about I heard somebody the other day say AI refer to an AI human. I forget who it was. It really freaked me out. Um, the bot cannot give you feedback in the same way that someone with my years of experience and longevity in the industry can. But that's just one piece of it, right? Working with each other. Like entrepreneurship is so siloed as it is to start off when you're building, especially if you have a smaller budget, right? And you're learning, okay, what is my go-to market strategy? Like a lot of us are not, I wasn't starting with this big budget um to be able to hire all these other people. So I think like AI is really going to be a great support for people who are willing to learn. Again, it's your decision, but who are willing to learn and take their business to the next level. So that's why I've weaved AI into this cohort because actually, like the last 3 months, I was working with a client on branding, and like from the time we started on branding, right? And we'll use Canva a little bit as well, but I think Canva is going to be I just feel like Canva is gonna be obsolete, like, I'm not sure when, but I just feel that way, but I love it, been using it since 2016, but we started in Canva, and I was teaching, how to use that, and now you can just build it in Claude or, like, again, whatever your AI of choice is, but, like, foundationally, you need to be able to boss the bot, know what to prompt. You need to be able to understand what your value is, what problem are you trying to solve for. And so that's really what this cohort is designed for. Thank you, Steve, for the thought provoking questions. And at this time, I will open up the chat to see if anybody else has any questions. I'm just going to give you a minute. Any questions, anybody? Um, okay. So you know where the form is. I would love to have you in this first cohort. The last thing I'll say is I may, depending on how many applications that I get, I may decide to run two. It's just going to really depend. And it would probably be the second one. It may like overlap a little bit with this one, but probably going to be after that. And then after that, I will probably raise the price a little bit just because you're going to get so much value out of this. I just know it. You have to be willing to put in the work though, right? It starts with you. It starts with being willing to just turn that lens inward and really do the self-discovery work to be able to go to market with all of your talents and the stuff and the work that lights you up that you want to be doing. So thank you so much. I will share this out in an article probably later today. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. We can jump on a call. I'm happy to answer. Again, maybe start with the FAQ because I put a lot of juicy details in there. And I'm just really excited. I will leave you with that you cannot build an authentic brand until you know who you are and where you're going. So that's my pitch. Thank you so much to the 10 of you who joined today, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in the cohort. Bye.